Welcome to Money Muscle Mindset, the podcast designed to motivate and educate you on your journey to financial and fitness success and to develop the mentality needed to achieve your goals. I'm Zay Molina, and in this episode, we're going to talk about 3 ways to train your mind like a muscle. We did an episode a while back on how to train your mind like an athlete and how to build discipline and resilience, and how to basically create that mama mentality for each and one of us, right? But our goal today is to talk about how we can specifically build our mind just like how we build muscles, right? Talk about different techniques, different, exercises that we can do to really grow and develop our mind just like we would a muscle in the gym. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in. So first and foremost, let's talk about what actually goes into building muscle so we can understand how we can relate this to our mind. So when it comes to building muscle, right? When we go to the gym and we start lifting weights, whether we're working biceps, triceps, chest, back, legs, whatever it may be, right? When we are trying to build muscle, right, and we go to the gym and we start to pick up those weights, what are we actually doing? Well, if we're doing some bicep curls or we're doing some tricep pull downs, whatever, right? We are actually not building muscle at that moment, but we are actually tearing the muscle down, right? And basically we're creating micro tears in the muscle fibers, right? So if you think about it this way, right? Let's say this is your muscle. Every time you do a rep and you do a set, right, and you start to work your muscles, you're basically creating those micro tears in your muscle fibers. So again, when you're at the gym, you're not actually building muscle, you're tearing it apart. Okay. And so what this does is when you're actually resting and recovering, your muscles actually begin to go into a process called muscle protein synthesis, where it's actually starting to build up the muscles, right? So again, it goes into those micro tears, starts to build new proteins. It starts to really build up that muscle. So basically, it's your body saying that, hey, we just went through a stressful challenge, right? We just went through something that we've never gone through before, right? We need to come back stronger, right? We need to have stronger muscles so we can take on this challenge, take on this stress a little bit better next time. And so that is the science behind actually building a muscle. So how can we relate this to our mind, to our brain, right? Well, when we're actually trying to grow our mind, we're not going in and actually, tearing apart muscle fibers in the brain, right? But the brain actually has neuroplasticity, which allows the brain to adapt and grow when it faces new challenges. So basically, when you put your mind under mental stress, right, and under facing new challenges, doing things outside your comfort zone, right, it's almost like building that muscle. When you go to the gym and you start tearing apart those muscle fibers, your body says, hey, you know what? We need to come back stronger so we can handle this better next time. Same thing happens in your mind. When you face a new challenge and you face a new problem that you're trying to solve, right, and it actually challenges you, right, your mind basically says, you know what? We need to come back stronger. Let's start to adapt and start to grow. And this is how we learn new things. So basically, guys, what I'm trying to say is we need to challenge our mind just like we would challenge our muscles in the gym. This is how we can start to grow and develop and transform into the person that we want to become by breaking out of our comfort zone, by doing things that are going to push us to grow into that person that's going to help us achieve our goals. So with that being said, let's talk about the 3 different ways of how we can actually treat our mind just like we would a muscle in the gym and how we can actually challenge it to grow and develop. Okay, so way number 1, guys, is simply doing daily mental reps. So what does this mean? Well, guys, this just means for us to commit some time every single day to focused mental exercise, right? This could be anything from reading to meditating to journaling to visualization to, gratitude, anything to that degree where you're kind of stepping out of your comfort zone. You're doing something that you normally wouldn't do that's going to challenge you just a little bit here and there. Maybe you make this a part of your morning or nightly routine, right? As soon as you wake up in the morning, you go and drink some water, maybe you make some coffee, right? Whatever it may be. And then you sit down and you read for 5 minutes, right? Or maybe you sit there and you meditate, or you start to journal different things. You start to write down your goals every day, right? You're doing little things that are going to start challenge you and basically kind of warm up the brain. Just like when you go into the gym, right? You're not going to go immediately go into the heaviest weight possible and start lifting, right? As soon as you walk through the doors, right? What are you going to do? You're probably going to stretch a little bit, maybe do some warm up reps, right? And you're going to kind of ease into your workout. That's kind of the same thing you want to do when it comes to our brain, right? Especially in the mornings, right? First thing when you wake up, you don't want to dive right into hard work because you're not going to be super focused. You're not going to be mentally clear to start going into all that kind of stuff, right? You want to start to warm up your brain little by little to start getting it ready for the hard, stressful work of the day. This can help you have mental clarity for the day where, you're not just going straight into work and, having rushed and impulsive decisions, or you're just not having a focused brain to start your work, right? You want to be able to come in with that focus, with that intention to say, okay, I'm going to do the best work possible right now, right? And the way we can do that is, again, just by warming up the brain with a few simple exercises to start our day. And there's actually been studies that show that regular practices of little things like this, of reading 5-10 minutes a day, or meditating, journaling, all this kind of stuff, guys, it actually improves attention span and emotional control. right? By simply just doing these little things, again, getting the mind going early in the morning, again, with some warm-up exercises, it can really help you start to get your mind going early on and help you, again, have better focus for the rest of the day. So again, guys, by doing these mental reps of a few just mental exercises in the morning or throughout the day before you start your heavy, stressful work, right? Doing this can help you, again, have that mental clarity, just like you would when you warm up in the gym before you start your actual heavy lifting. Okay, guys, so that was way number one. Way number two, super important, guys, is we want to basically progressive overload the mind. Now, what does that mean? Well, again, let's go back to the gym, right? When we're in the gym and we're trying to work our muscles, how do we actually grow? Because I'm sure we've all had that point where we're at the gym and we're doing an exercise and we're lifting this weight, right? And we feel like we're growing, but we look at the scale, we look at our body composition, we're not actually growing any muscle, right? We feel like we're just stuck and we're in a plateau, right? Well, how do we get past that, right? How do we actually grow our muscles by challenging ourselves in the gym? Well, that's the key, guys, is you want to consistently challenge yourself, right? So if you get to a point where, let's say, for example, you're doing barbell curls, right? And you're curling 70 pounds, right? If you continue to use that same weight of 70 pounds, right, and it's getting easier, you're not really challenging the muscle anymore. At some point, if you feel that it's getting too easy, right, you're not actually challenging those muscles to continue to grow. So what do you need to do? Well, in this case, if you're doing the same weight, the same reps, the same type of exercise, the same training intensity, right, something needs to change. Something needs to go up, whether that's the reps, whether that's the weight, the sets, right, the intensity, the volume, right, whatever it may be, guys, you need to start to increase something to increase the challenge on your muscles. And I'm not saying going from 70 pounds and doubling it to 140 pounds, right, but we need to gradually increase over time. That is progressive overload, right? Going from 70 pounds to 75 pounds or 72 and a half pounds, right? But constantly trying to increase, again, whether it's the weight, whether it's the reps, whatever it may be, guys, but we want to continue to increase the challenge, and that is going to help us continue to start pushing our muscles a little bit further. And then when we're resting, we're building up that muscle, going back in and challenging it, tearing apart those muscle fibers, going back, resting, recovering, building that muscle. And again, this is how we properly progressive overload in the gym. So how can we do this with our mind? Well, guys, it's the same concept. We need to progressive overload our mind by gradually increase the challenges we put on it. For example, if you're at your job and you're constantly doing the same amount of paperwork or the same simple tasks that you always do, right? You're not actually growing and trying to develop, right? Let's say you're trying to get a promotion or trying to move to the next level, trying to create your own business, right? You need to take on harder challenges, harder problems, right? Ask for work that's going to make you think a little bit more, right? Do different challenges that are going to push you past your limits, past your comfort zone. Maybe right now, every single day you're reading for 10 minutes and you're only able to get about 5 pages in those 10 minutes, right? Well, maybe you challenge yourself to say, you know what, I'm going to try to get 6 pages today. Once you're able to do that consistently for a few weeks, then go up to 7 pages, then 8 pages, then 9 pages, right? And consistently continue to challenge yourself to try to grow and get faster at reading. Maybe you're trying to learn new words, maybe you're trying to learn a new language, right? But doing something that's going to challenge you to get your mind going, to get your mind to really start pushing itself past its limits. Maybe there's a new skill that you really want to learn, like learning a new language, or like learning, to play the guitar, or like learning to, start to code, whatever it may be, right? Maybe there's something you've always wanted to do, but you kind of held yourself back from lack of confidence, right? But just go after it. Start from the basics, start learning, right? Get involved, start doing this. And that's going to challenge you to start growing. And again, it's going to gain more confidence, and you're going to push your mind to continue to grow and adapt to new challenges to help you evolve into the person that you want to become. So again, guys, it's about consistently challenging yourself, gradually trying to increase the challenge that you put on your mind, right? This is actually called the deliberate practice theory. And basically, this theory states that consistent, focused challenges produce faster skill development than just random effort. And think about it this way. Let's say you go to the gym, for example, and you walk in and say, hey, I'm going to work out, right? My goal is to grow my bench press. So you go and you bench press once, right? And then you go to the leg press, and then you go to the bicep curl machine, right? And you do all these different workouts. And then the next day you come back and you're like, well, how come my bench press didn't grow? Well, because you're not really challenging to grow that bench press, right? You're just doing random different exercises based on how you felt that day, right? You want to go in with deliberate practice of saying, okay, I want to increase my bench press. I'm going to do 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps, right? With whatever weight that I can, okay? Then I'm going to go to a different exercise where I'm still working the chest and starting to grow it. Maybe I do a dumbbell bench press. Maybe I do an incline bench press. Maybe I do chest flies, right? And I'm doing different exercises that are going to continue to challenge my chest muscles, right? That are going to help me continue to tear it apart in the gym. And then when I go home and rest and recover, it's going to help me build that muscle. So when I go back to the gym next time to bench press, right, I'm going to consistently start to push myself a little bit harder. Maybe I increase the reps. Maybe I increase the weight. Maybe I slow down the exercise and increase the tension, right? Whatever it may be, right? But I understand that I'm actually going in with a plan to say, you know what? I'm going to increase my bench press by challenging my muscles the right way and doing progressive overload. And again, by doing that, guys, you should see more results than just random effort in the gym. And that same concept can be applied to our mind. We want to continuously challenge our mind, right? And again, not with just random stuff that we hope is is going to challenge our mind, right? But we want to go in with the deliberate practice and understand that, okay, if I'm trying to learn a new language, right, I know I need to practice it daily. I need to start learning harder words. I need to start doing these different things. That's actually going to help me start to remember this and allow my mind to adapt to the new challenges. And last but not least, guys, way number 3, like we talked about it with the muscle, rest is super important. So we want to rest and recover our mind. Just like we talked about it, guys, the resting period, the recovery period of when we're outside the gym and we're eating proper nutrition, we're getting proper sleep, all this kind of stuff, guys, that is when we're actually going to see our muscles grow, right? Not in the gym. The gym is where we break down the muscle fibers, okay? So the same thing happens to our mind, right? When we're working and we're going, we're putting stress and challenges on our mind, right? It's trying to comprehend all this kind of stuff. It's trying to work harder so we can continue to grow and develop, right? But it's not until we actually take a step back, unplug from all the screens, do stuff that we love, just go to sleep, whatever it may be, right? But we understand that when we do that and we take that step back, that allows our mind to say, okay, what did we just do? Let me process all of this and let me start to make these memories and these new adaptations. So when we go back into it, I can be stronger and ready for the next challenge. It's kind of like when you have a whole bunch of stuff on your to-do list, right? If you keep adding stuff, more and more stuff to your to-do list, right? What's going to happen? That's just going to keep growing and growing. It's going to stress you out. You're not going to do any of it, right? But if you're able to say, you know what? I'm going to stop adding stuff to this to-do list. Let me knock off the first task, then the second task, then the third task, right? And now it's getting a lot smaller, right? Because you simply just stopped adding more and more stuff, right? You're able to just look at this to-do list and slow down and kind of say, you know what, let me knock this off and then I can add more stuff to my plate. And that's kind of what happens to our mind when we take a rest, right? If you're going, you're working on some paperwork, you're working on whatever it is for your job, right? And you're just constantly pushing yourself, right? But when you take a step back, again, it allows your mind to kind of process everything that it just went through, start to make those adaptations to where now it's ready for the next day when you go back into that hard, stressful job. Let's basically put it this way, right? Muscles grow during recovery, mind sharpens during rest, right? Understanding that, again, by giving yourself that time to just take a step back, do things that you love, right? Go play your favorite sports, video games, whatever it may be, right? Doing something that's going to allow you to take your mind off that stressful challenge, whatever it may be, right, is going to allow you to, again, to start kind of recovering the mind process and start to help you avoid, mental burnouts. Because I'm sure we've all had that moment where we're just working on something, we're go, and we just get to a point where we just can't really think, we can't come up with new ideas, right? And we just feel like we are just pushing ourselves to our limit. And these burnouts are basically when we get to that point where we're just trying to do everything that we can, but we're not really being productive, right? We're not doing the best job that we can because we're simply just mentally fatigued. It's okay to take rest, right? It's actually good to take rest, right? Take a step back and, again, do the things that you love and then come back to it with a clear and fresh mind. And there's actually a technique on this called the Pomodoro technique, right? I've talked about this on the podcast before, but basically you do 25 minutes of intentional, hard, focused work, and then you take a 5-minute break. Then you go 25 minutes again of hard, intentional work, and then you take a 10-minute break, right? And you're essentially, what you're doing is you're giving it all in those 25 minutes, doing everything that you can, and then you're forcing yourself to take a 5-minute break to just relax and, again, let your mind mentally reset, right? And then you can go back in with more focus and productive effort, right? And it's actually been proven that these little short breaks throughout the day allows you to actually put in more and better effort during that 25 minutes that you're actually working, right? And it doesn't have to be 25 minutes, 5 minutes off, right? This is just a good starting point, but you can increase it to 45 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 10 minutes off, right? You can do whatever you want that's going to help you, right? But the idea is pushing yourself for a certain amount of time, but taking those consistent daily breaks throughout the day to help you guys, again, have that mental reset. Again, just like we need rest for our muscles to grow, we need that rest to help sharpen our mind and help clear up everything that we need to, so we don't have a bunch of mental clutter when we're trying to go back into our focused work. So again, guys, it's okay to take rests and breaks, right? Understanding that these can help us, again, have more productive work in the long run. So with that being said, guys, that's what I got for you guys on today's episode. Again, 3 ways that we can train our mind just like we do with muscles, right? Number 1, guys, is, again, doing those daily mental reps, kind of warming up the mind just like we would with our muscles before going into heavy lifting at the gym. Number 2, progressive overload of the mind, again, constantly increasing the challenges we put on our mind to continue to help us evolve and adapt. And way number 3, giving yourself proper rest and recovery for your mind so you can avoid those burnouts and you can avoid that mental clutter. I encourage you guys to try these techniques, and I hope it helps you evolve and adapt to new challenges to help you become the person that you want to become. And with that, I'm going to leave you guys as I always do. Remember, success isn't just about the money you make or the muscles you build. It's also about the mindset you develop along the way. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Money Muscle Mindset.